Okay, this is for Algebra 1, Semester 2. Here's the section 6.3 and 6.4. We're going to be factoring trinomials with 1 in front of x squared. Meaning we're just factoring means we're going to break it down. We're going to make it smaller. We're going to break it into more pieces. And so we want to factor this trinomial, x squared plus 6x plus 9. Trinomial means 3 terms, so we want to break it down so that it has 2 terms or 2 parentheses. The first step is to put the last number on top of the x. So I took this 9 right here and put it on top of my x. The 9 goes on top. Step 2 is to put the middle number on the bottom. So this middle number 6 goes down here right on the bottom. So the 9 went on top, the middle number 6 went on the bottom. Third step is to find 2 numbers that multiply to give you 9 and add to give you 6. So the dot goes here, the plus is here, they multiply. If you multiply 3 times 3, you get 9. If you add 3 plus 3, you get 6. So the 3 and the 3 are the 2 numbers that we're looking for. And make sure you write in all of these little steps where you see them, and it'll help you solve these a lot easier, or factor them a lot easier. Step 4 is to figure out the correct signs and to make the parentheses. The correct signs is that this tells us that they're the same signs, this last one, because if it's a positive in the back, they have to be the same. This one tells us they're both going to be positive. So if you notice, you have your 3's right here. It's going to be x plus 3 and x plus 3. X plus 3, x plus 3. This specific one is actually called a trinomial square, because you could actually take these 2 parentheses, put them into 1, and just put squared on it. So it's called a trinomial square. And you can pause the video if you need to stop it and move and wait until you get them all copied until we move to the next slide. But I'm going to move on. Here's a couple of examples, just what we just worked on. The first step was to put the last number on top. So 6 goes here, the middle number goes on the bottom, 5 goes down here. We want to find 2 numbers that would multiply to give us 6 and add up to 5. And 3 plus 2 is 5, and 3 times 2 is 6. This tells me that they have to be the same. This one tells me what they both are. They're both positive. So we're going to have an x plus 3 and an x plus 2. And you can see this was a positive 3 and that was a positive 2 right there. So you can just put those in the parentheses as is. Moving across, 12 goes on top, negative 8 goes on the bottom, negative 8. So this time we've got some negatives involved. 2 numbers that would multiply to give me a positive 12 that would add to give me a negative 8. Now I'm thinking 6 and 2 would be 2 numbers that would multiply to give me a 12, but if I add them together I get a positive 8. So I need it to be negative 6 and negative 2. Negative times a negative is a positive 12. Negative plus a negative is a negative 8. And you can see you have a negative 6. So you've got x negative 6. And you've got a negative 2. You've got x negative 2. Those are your 2 parentheses. Moving on, you've got a 49 on the top. You've got a negative 14 on the bottom. We've got 2 numbers that would multiply to give me 49 and add up to 14. I'm thinking 7 and 7. But again, we need negative 14, so we're going to need negative 7. So x minus 7, x minus 7, and you could even change that into x minus 7 squared. Because that would be a trinomial square. You've got 2 of the exact same parentheses. This one's a little different. It's got a negative 20 on the top. And again, if I'm going too fast, just pause the video and catch up and then start it over again. Negative 20 on top, you've got a negative 8 on the bottom. So they need to multiply to give me a negative 20. That means they have to be a positive number and a negative number to get a negative on top. And we need negative 8 on the bottom. I'm thinking a 10 and a 2. Now 10 plus 2 would be 12. But I need negative 8, but look at their different signs. That means you don't add those, you subtract them. 10 minus 2 is 8. Now the 10 has to be negative. And the 2 is going to have to be positive. The bigger number and the bottom number have to be the same sign. So you're going to need a negative 10 and a positive 2 as your two parentheses. X minus 10 and x plus 2. Pause it if you need to catch up. Okay, let's look at, we have 1 through 12 here. I'm going to do the first 4 of them, and then you can do some of those. I might do 1 or 2 here and there. Here's number 16, or here's the 16, it goes on top. The 8 goes on the bottom. And then you're going to see 2 numbers that multiply to give you 16 and add up to 8. I'm thinking 4 and 4. Both positive, because you have a positive and a positive here, so x plus 4, x plus 4, or x plus 4 squared. You should be able to do the other 3 on this page, so if you want to pause the video right now and do those other 3, do so. I'm going to do number 5 for you next. I'm going to do number 5. Now again, you could pause the video and go back and do number 2, 3, and 4 first. But I'm going to do number 5. You got a 15 on top. You got this negative 8 has to go on the bottom. 2 numbers that multiply to give me 15 and add up to negative 8. They've got to be the same sign. They've got to both be negative. So negative 5, negative 3 would add up to negative 8 and would multiply to give me a positive 15. Negative times negative is positive. So you've got x minus 5 and you've got x minus 3. Would be your 2 parentheses. I'm going to do number 8 down here for you. You can pause the video right now and do 6 and 7 if you want to. But I'm going to do 8 for you. Because you've got this n squared. I just don't want you to get confused. The 15 still goes on top, and the 8 still goes on the bottom. They have to multiply to give me 15 and add up to 8. And that's going to be 5 and 3, or 3 and 5, it doesn't matter. So you're going to get m plus 5 and m plus 3. But what about this n squared back here, and this mn in the middle? It just means you needed to have an n next to those last 2 numbers. Because 5n times 3n is 15n squared. And then you've got mn when you do the outside, and you've got mn when you do the inside. So that would be number 8. So you should be able to do 6 and 7. You can pause it if you need to. And number 9 I'll do for you. And then you should be able to do the other 3. We have a negative 12 that goes on top. You've got a positive 4 that goes on the bottom. Multiply to give you negative 12, add up to positive 4. I'm thinking a positive 6 because it's the bigger number, and a negative 2. The bigger number and the bottom one have to be the same sign. So you get an x and a positive 6, you get an x and a negative 2. That would be 9. You should be able to do 10, 11, and 12. The steps are down here for you. If you forget, look at the steps. Do 1 step at a time until you solve it. And then the factoring, the matching, you should be able to match the problems with answers or answers with problems. This one is a review from yesterday. We have x times x. We have 6 times 6. So it's going to be x plus 6, x minus 6 when you break this one down. And you should show a little work for me here. So that means that this right here matches with this one down here. And so you should be able to figure out where the other ones match. This one, you're going to do a difference of squares. This one, you're going to need an x, negative 54 on top and a negative 3 on the bottom. This one, you'll need an x, and that one, you'll need an x. And that's it for the notes for today.